Hello, welcome to this video. This video is a brief overview of the changing UK economy topic, which is in paper 2. So you can see a flowchart. You may well have done this in class. If possible, you could print screen this, print it off, draw it out, or just take notes, or simply listen. All of it will be good for your recall of key knowledge. So, first of all, the UK had an industrial economy. It was focused on manufacturing. So during the 19th century, which is the 1800s, the UK underwent its industrial revolution, and there were literally factories everywhere. We manufactured goods for the whole world. However, during the 1970s and mainly the 1980s, we went through a process of deindustrialisation. So deindustrialisation, in simplistic terms, is all the jobs in factories in the secondary industry went. And the reasons were because of globalisation. It was easier to communicate and travel around the world, and this helps with the import and export of goods. Government policy. So under the Conservative government with Margaret Thatcher, subsidies, which are monies given to businesses to keep wages and product prices artificially high, were taken away. And there was also privatisation, so a lot of government-led businesses were sold off. And finally, cheaper imports. So it was cheaper to get countries such as China, which was newly emerging, to manufacture goods for us and import them. And this led to factory closures. So after the decline of secondary industry, we now live in a post-industrial economy. That basically means after industry. And it's focused on services and research. So services are the tertiary sector, and it's basically any job in which something's provided someone but doesn't necessarily leave a tangible good at the end. You can't touch anything. For example, I work in the service industry. I'm teaching you new things. Or my hairdresser, Jo, she cuts my hair. She works in the service industry. The other industry that's growing rapidly is the quaternary industry. Now, quaternary is basically research and the knowledge economy. So if you consider, pharmaceutical, which means drug companies invented new cures for diseases, app design, and there's a big demand for things like this in the UK. Now, we do still manufacture things. Okay, a big example that we can use is Jaguar Land Rover. Okay, now they have got a modern industrial site and it's environmentally sustainable. So, for example, the engine manufacturing plant in Wolverhampton has got solar panels all across its roof. It's actually got the largest solar panels in the whole of the UK, and this generates electricity. This means that they don't have to consume electricity from the grid. Other things that you can see is if you look at that photograph, the windows around the factory are huge, and this again reduces the need for artificial light. And the roof is a sawtooth shape, so it goes up at an angle, then down, up at an angle, down, and this helps with air circulation. So things like air conditioning and heating can be used more efficiently. Moving on, other changes in the UK. Rural areas are undergoing both population increase and population decline. Our example for an area experiencing population decrease is the Outer Hebrides, a group of islands off the coast of Scotland. Because it's generally younger people that are leaving, a social impact is there's now an ageing population, and that's going to have an impact on healthcare services. Also, there's rising unemployment because places like the post office don't need to be open every day. They're only open for 3 days a week. And this means there's less jobs. And crofters, which is a farmer on the Outer Hebrides, can struggle to find work for the whole week. In contrast, South Cambridgeshire, another rural area, is seeing population increase. Now, because there's more people wanting to live in South Cambridgeshire, this pushes housing prices up. If you look in that photograph, you can see there's a lot of green space around South Cambridgeshire, But as time goes on, there's going to be pressure to build on this space, and that's going to have an environmental impact. Another one is traffic congestion. Rural roads are generally narrower than town, urban, city roads, so there's more traffic congestion. This is going to increase air pollution and stress levels of the locals. The next thing we need to be aware of is the north-south divide. Ultimately, as a result of deindustrialisation in the north and lack of government investment, the north of the UK is generally considered poorer than the south. So we can call the north the poor north. And places such as Blackpool and Glasgow have got really low life expectancies. However, in the south of the UK, if you think southeast, in particular in London, they have higher wages, there's more government investment, and this also impacts on things like GCSE outcomes. Because of the higher aspirations and the wealthier parents in southern parts of the country, GCSE grades are generally higher. Now, a strategy to reduce the north-south divide and to improve transport more generally is the range of transport improvements that are going on in the UK. So the example here is HS2, which is High Speed 2, and this is going to connect London to Birmingham, and then Birmingham to the north of the country to Leeds, Manchester and Liverpool. Now the cost of this is £100 billion, but it's going to reduce journey times, which is a social opportunity, and it's not going to be using fossil fuels, so an environmental benefit there. Other examples of transport improvements are Heathrow Airport is having a new runway built, so that's an airport expansion. Liverpool has built a new port for container ships called Liverpool 2, and you can probably see this for yourself. A lot of motorways now are upgraded to smart motorways, and this is where above the motorway there's gantries with screens on telling you how fast you can go or not go to reduce traffic congestion. Another strategy to reduce the north-south divide is local enterprise partnerships. So local enterprise partnerships is when private businesses such as the East End, the government and councils work together. Now in the Black Country LEP there's been a massive investment in encouraging businesses to relocate to the area. So if we take the example of the East End Spice Factory, it's located on a business park in Sandwell. It's got excellent communication links because it's right next to the M5 motorway, and also because the Black Country LEP is encouraging schools to educate their students about apprenticeships in such organisations. They're really keen to set up here. Finally, we need to know about the UK's global links and how they're changing. Now, the first example is the European Union. Now, we have left the European Union, so we're no longer in that political union. However, we still have strong trading links with them, and we still import and export a lot of goods. The other example, which is probably at the forefront of your minds because of the Commonwealth Games and the Queen's Jubilee, is our links with the Commonwealth. So there's 54 countries around the world, and we work together with them to help develop their economies. We assist them with education and social reforms, and if there's a natural disaster, we would also provide emergency aid. There's one thing I haven't mentioned in this video, and that is science parks. So like the business park in Sandwell, there are also, and in Birmingham as well, there are also science parks, and these offer opportunities for regional economic growth. For example, the Birmingham Science Park works closely with Birmingham University and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Okay, that's this topic in a nutshell. I hope that's been helpful. Again, you can draw this flowchart out, you can bullet point it, or simply enjoy listening to the beautiful sounds of my voice to help you with your revision. Bye.